Third reading. The Electoral Legislation Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2018. Secretary for Constitution and Alien Affairs. President, I move that the Electoral Legislation Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2018 be read the third time and to pass. I now propose to question you that the Electoral Legislation Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2018 be read the third time and to pass. Does any member wish to speak? Mr. Alohin. I would like to explain why I would vote against this bill compared to the 2015-2011 election amendment. And this is just really small patch up and avoid the core question, which is to abolish the functional constituency for universal suffrage. Some thought that this technical amendments should be problem-free, and there is grounds for this passage. And before the third reading, I would like to highlight some of the background and perspectives. In last May, when we discussed this at the proposal by CMAB, some of the proposals will come from for the public consultation document on the Constitution Report on review of electoral arrangements, as well as those from the internal review of the REO. Mr. Au, the third reading only allows you to outline your grounds to support an objective instead of revisiting the clause-by-clause provision. So I would like to outline my overall objection to this bill. And on the burden of proof, just now the Secretary had touched on that. And the burden of proof very much should come from the objector. However, at the Bills Committee, at the panel, I raised that as an objector, that I suspect a particular household may involved in vote rigging. Do I have to install a camera shooting at the entrances and capture the movements in and out? So, as the burden of proof, I think is something I have reservations on. And the focus of the deliberations will be on the voters' registration objection mechanism, which excited clause 14. Mr. Au, let me remind you once again, because we're having a third reading debate, the members should explain when they support the third reading. At this stage, you should not be discussing individual clauses or amendments, or to repeat the viewpoints raised at the Bills Committee stage. President, I don't think I'm recapping these highlights of the second debate. You should not be discussing individual clauses. It just outline the overall support and objection to this bill. However, the formulation of individual clauses formed part of my grounds on the overall support. So however, that should be raised in the second reading instead of third reading. Let me remind you, please return to the third reading. Overall speaking, some of the measures proposed, even though NCAC has streamlined the vote counting process, and for the incontrovertible, clearly invalid ballots, their handling can be streamlined. When the dispute arises, can this bill include the ballot papers of deceased or disqualified candidates and dismiss them invalid, and it should not be counted? That's one of the highlights of the bill's deliberation process. I noticed that Dr. Helen Wong have already raised concern at the panel stage. So the vote counting process should be transparent, and also shared her concern that for the sake of streamlining the vote counting process, with the administration proposed that it have new arrangements on disqualification of candidates, so as to deal with a political sensitive or embarrassing ballots, and due to both grounds, I object to the entire bill. Generally speaking, in the 2011 and 2015, the pan-Democrat lawmakers had object to the election amendments bill. The reason is that we hope the administration, while proposed amending the electoral legislation, it should have the goal of achieving universal suffrage and abolish the functional constituency. However, the pan-Democrat members to object to the bill in entirety, I so submit. Dr. Helena Wong. Madam Deputy, the Democratic Party will support the third reading of this electoral legislation miscellaneous amendments. I can see that it will top up the maximum penalty on falsified statement in the voters' registration particulars. I hope that after the passage of the bill, the government will continue to look into enhancing or raising the penalty levels. Because currently, even though the penalty, the fine and the penalty has been raised, in comparison to the election fraud ordinance or the RO ordinance, where the relevant provisions for anyone providing false statements and go to vote or promote vote and is convicted upon summary correction can be fined of $200,000 and 3 years imprisonment. If it's indicted on prosecutions, it would fine for $500,000 and 7 years imprisonment. And this bill have raised the penalty, and for the imprisonment, I felt is sufficient, and yet the fine, when compared to the another legislation I'll refer to, it seems to be a great difference, about $200,000 and $500,000. And now talk about $50,000, raising it to $10,000. I see there's a further room for improvement.
We also support streamlining the appeals and claims mechanism for the procedures. This is the third reading, Dr. Lena Wong. We should discuss whether or not we support the third reading of the bill. We should not discuss specific amendments or provisions. Please be patient, Madam Deputy. I would be very quick. So we feel that the procedures should be streamlined, and the government accepted our proposal in that the burden of proof should not be on the appellant. So you should you are asking for reasonable justification, which we find acceptable even after the bill is passed. When vetting and updating voter particulars, you should play the role of gatekeeper for voters who have already died. Are you going to compare the death records with the VR records? And the government should also launch investigations on cases of vote rigging. So I hope you can reinforce your work in this regard. We support the bill, especially on the criminal liability for incurring election expenses for publishing election advertisements on the internet, and the exemption on electricity and internet access charges have been exempted. I think this is a helpful measure, so the Democratic Party would support the third reading of the bill.
Dr. K.K. Kwok. Madam Deputy, I speak to oppose the third reading of the bill on behalf of the Civic Party. Regarding details of the bill, our party member, Mr. Dennis Kwok, has made a speech. Now, we oppose the bill because since many years after the handover, the administration has turned a blind eye to things like voter rigging, and also malpractices. The administration has not fundamentally changed the system to disallow these, and the government has also allowed the returning officer to abuse his powers to disqualify candidates. With the passage of the bill, Hong Kong is not a step closer to fair and open elections. The patch up in these amendments may give the wrong impression to the public that the government is trying to improve this very flawed election system. I agree that in some of the amendments may be able to make minor improvements, but then we have seen so many unfairness in the society. And the current legislative amendments are not going to help the situation. Because of this, we cannot support the passage of the bill. Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I propose a question to you as stated. Secretary, do you intend to respond? Madam Chair, I just want to say one point. Dr. K.K. Kwok opposed the third reading of the bill on behalf of the Civic Party. However, his grounds for objection have nothing to do with the amendments here, which intend to improve the related legislation. He was just chanting old cliches, and all our elections are being held in a fair and open manner in accordance with the law. Our constitution development is also in accordance with the basic law. Dr. K.K. Kwok, what did he mean by my chanting slogans, and how is our system fair and open? Dr. K.K. Kwok, please be seated. Secretary, well, I hope Dr. K.K. Kwok understands that there are many specific proposals in the legislation that can improve the operation of our elections. And I think we are being pragmatic, and if we can improve the current system, why not? For wider issues such as our political system and political arrangements, there are many other occasions when we can discuss them in accordance with the provisions and the basic law and in accordance with our actual circumstances. Thank you. And I put a question to you as stated, and that is the Electoral Legislation Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2018 be read the third time and do pass. Mr. Arnold Hin claims a division. The division bell will be rung for 5 minutes.
開始表決。
Voting begins. Members, please check your votes. If there are no problems, voting is closed. I display the results. 56 members present, 43 for, 12 against. The motion is approved by the majority of the two groups of the members present. I declare the motion passed. Electoral Legislation Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2018. Motion debates with no legislative effect. Motion on reviewing the Comprehensive Social Security Assistance Scheme. Members who wish to speak may press the request to speak button. I call upon the Honourable Shu Ka-sheng to speak and move the motion. Order, please, members.